Okay, so welcome to the Miracle Mind, and the second segment. There are four. We did one. This is two. There are four or five. I can check it out. So this is Can you hear this? The segment. Can you hear this? Now these are talks. Many of them four times 1.5 hour of teaching, done in two teaching moments. That's only the technicality of it. So the content of it, you can say that when you use this book, you will see an increase of frequency along the way. And what I mean with that is that what happens when you read it, what happens when you come to the last chapters, you could say, or last parts of the book, there's an intensity that is just phenomenal. In the beginning, there's also a very, say, intensive frequency or way of teaching, way of confronting, way of, say, showing, way of trying to connect with you. That's basically the whole thing. It's like it's connecting with you, trying to get exactly where you find yourself, where you are holding on, where you are doing things. And what happens basically in every one of the talks is that you will be pushed so deep into your shit, fear, anger, whatever your favorite taste is. You're going to be pushed deeper into it and not be taken out, not be lifted out of with lofty words. No, actually being pushed deeper into it, but in a very loving way, with a very loving purpose. It's like, how can you see where you're holding on to if your whole life is based on staying in comfort with those, say, things, with those limitations that you impose on yourself but accept and walk around with? So this is what I mean. Do you get what I'm saying? So that is essential here. Like in the teaching, there's an increasing being pushed into your stuff, so to speak, into your holding on to limitation deeper than anything else, like completely confrontational. Now this is of course part of the Course in Miracles, where you need to be, say, changed at the root. Now you got to deal here with a sneaky, vicious ego mindset. So this is like, you actually have to enter in through the back door in order to reach you. You have to enter into the back door. You cannot do it frontally because your say, image, your defense mechanism is so really well done. It's like, really great. If you want to protect something, yeah. So now discovering that there's nothing to protect, and actually you're just doing this to yourself, so there's nothing to hide from anything. You see that something else can change, and that makes it very transformational. Now, this is done in a way that tackles your intellect. And tackling means you cannot use it the way that you have been accustomed to using it in order to defend yourself. Trying to talk yourself out spiritually, mentally, emotionally, talking yourself out of your, say, defense. You can literally protect your defense with your mindset mechanisms. Now, and with your intellect, your great intellect, you can find an exception, always. There's always an exception. So this is also something that will pop up. It's like there's an exception to the situation. And it's like, no, the situation is total. God loves you completely, wholly. There's no exception to that. No, there's no exception to that. There's absolutely no exception to that. When you are one, when God created you, he created you perfectly. No, there's no exception to that. No, absolutely not. There's no exception to that. You are not separate from your Father. That means you're one with him. And he created you. So he knows what he was doing. He created you perfectly. All attempts to prove the opposite have a reason. You protect yourself with a reason. You protect yourself against the love of God for a reason. Now, you're not going to tell me, because you don't even know yourself why you're doing it. This is how bad it is. You could say it's like you get yourself into a bind of some kind and you forgot how you did it. Now you are in this beautiful knot, a really great, beautiful knot, and you don't know how to get out of it. So good luck. Good luck with your intellect and with your brilliant way of getting yourself in a corner. In pain, in misery, in a deep sense of loneliness, in an inertia state of being, in a vacuum, in not inspired state, in a depression, in daily waking up in a deep anxiety for no reason, and you fill in the blanks. Like all of that is, see, I can explain it. It doesn't make sense. So I'm not even going to try to explain this. So the light has to do the work here. It's not by your intellect that you're going to get this, that you get into what is actually being shared. You're not going to figure it out. Now I can say that to you, but you're going to try to do it. You know what I'm dealing with here? You know where you are dealing with in your mind? With this little sneaky bastard that is so smart and so vicious and so slippery and so, but if you don't engage it, it isn't there. It cannot do anything except when you give it the power to do so. So that makes it, say, important, and this is our practice, of course, this is important to recognize what is actually doing that. Why am I actually doing that? Like, how can I put it to rest, you could say? How can I stay out of the temptation to use it against myself? Because in myself is where the communication is, where the recognition of my sonship is, where the light is, where all of that is being present right here, right now, where the still small voice is speaking to me all through the day. Now, where I don't need to be, say, hovering down into a roller coaster of emotional upheaval, downheaval, and whatever. It's like all of that is not necessary if I stay in my center. But I have a little bit conflict of interest. I serve two masters, or I do whatever I do to avoid actually stepping into it completely, leaving what I'm not behind. Now, this is mostly not a one-time occurrence, so it's a training in that sense. The moment you come out of your setup, out of your defenses, into an experience of release of self-identity, that is the only real moment that is really there for you. This is where your salvation lies. We can use all kinds of beautiful words for that, but in fact it comes down to, this is where you are real. All the other, say, things, you are not real. And it has immediate consequences for your experience of yourself. Because if it isn't real, what is it? It's nothing. And you feel that emptiness immediately, even though you might not want to, say, admit it right away. All right, now I said a lot. See, actually, using now chapter 4, Chapter 4 is the chapter of today, of this 40 days. Chapter 4 is on the 4th day. Now here's something that the ego, that's why we're talking about this little sneaky bastard, you could say. A sneaky bastard where you don't have to pay any attention to at the same time, is scared of one thing, and which is what? Well, since you, deep within you, have a recognition with truth, that is there. It is radiating through you. It is literally absolutely in a state of grace. This is in you. This is, you could say, your soul has a full recognition of that. The soul is, in a natural state, is a state of grace. This is you. This is not someone else. This is you. A state of grace is within you. It is in your altar, where the recognition is of our, say, oneness, consciousness, all-inclusive, Father, Son, Father, Holy Spirit, Soul, Christ. So that is the place in you. Now, this happiness, this absolute fulfilling extension is the greatest threat of this little tiny, little nothing. I called it little bastard, but it's like ego mind. It's scared as hell, it's scared shitless, to say it in slangs, scared shitless for happiness, for deep sense of joy, with no reason, just for happiness sake happy, just for beingness sake happy, completely fulfilled, needing nothing. It's the greatest threat to ego mind, to monkey mind, to human mind, the greatest threat. All right, so that being said, I made a visual. I made a visual that has everything to do with this, with chapter 4. It's 3 minutes long. There's no words in it. I'm not saying the words, but I use a couple of lines from chapter 4. And So this is one point that we share here. So let's continue with that. It's like, see, the soul's happiness, the soul's joy, your joy. Once you experience that joy that's coming from your soul, everything else starts to shift and change big time. Because what is interesting to an image? What is interesting about an image if you actually experience the real deal? Simple as that. Like, everything loses color in that sense, as an alternative for identification. If you experience the joy of the soul that is radiating through your whole being, feeling it in every cell and breathing it, feeling connected with every aspect of creation for some time, for an instant, for a moment, but at least, say, the protection shield of what you thought you were before is broken. Literally, your mirror is in pieces. Now this offering is absolutely the rebirth or the resurrection of you. And okay, so bringing it back to where we found ourselves just a moment ago, with an idea of self-identity, with the way Master Teacher teaches this to you in this talk, with an increasing kind of increasing frequency of yeah, you can almost say like penetration. It sounds a bit, oh, nah, it's okay. Like, it is really like this. It's like, this will shake up even more. And this is not to make you afraid of it. No, it's apparently you're completely ready to hear it. Otherwise you would not be listening or be part of this. No, so let this happen just the way it comes. It's perfectly all right. You're ready. You have great support all the time. Great support in this undertaking. Even though it might feel for a moment that you're doing this by yourself or that you feel all alone, don't worry about it. So you're in great hands. You decide to wake up from this, say, nightmare, from this limited view about yourself, this limited self-identity, and you want to feel the joy of your soul. Simple as that. So here you could say it's like a great speed up given to you. And this is how we use it too. So it is not compromise, like there's no compromise in it. There's no deal to be made. There's no I want it my way related to it. And that can feel a bit like very direct. So now I'm not giving you a warning at all. It's just the nature of it. It's like, if you want to hear something, first you have to be reached. Then your ears need to be open, and then you have to be willing to hear it. And that for a moment can look like a one-way street until you start to recognize what is being shared, and then you see like, oh my God, yeah, in whatever way it can come to me, it's fine with me. I heard what you said, and it's fine with me because I'm actually experiencing the joy of my soul singing through me as an absolute exalting outburst of yes, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Somebody got the guts to wake me up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So this is my thank you to Master Teacher, of course. Of course, am I grateful for him recognizing that I needed to say, hear it this way in order to come to the soul singing consciously through me in every step that I take and every move that I make, you know, like this. Yeah, words fail entirely. That's the best thing I can say. Like, words fail entirely. All right, so this is the mind, miracle mind, continuing with, can you hear this? So we're listening to Master Teacher to the very first part of this talk.
The whole basis of the teaching is that you don't know who you are, okay? Is that a fair assumption? Is that fair? Does anyone here, I mean really, I'm not concerned about how you constructed yourself. No one here really knows who they are. Otherwise, why would you seek an identity? If you knew who you were, okay, why would you have to have an identity? Answer me. You can say, well, I have an identity and my name is Jones and this guy's name is Smith and I came here and I'm going to study the relationships and the illusion and therefore reach a conclusion. See, the demand that you and I recognize each other mutually is an attack on reality, isn't it? In other words, your need to be who you think you are obviously is a demonstration of a defense that you present yourself with in order to associate with your imagined cohorts. Okay, what I would like to do, if I can, if you're going to do this, Course in Miracles teachers particularly, is at least give you a premise of what you must do in order to be a miracleist. It has to begin with the subtraction of your persona. That is, if we're going to, let's say we're going to work a miracle here now. And there's miracles going on right now in this new range of consciousness. Obviously, the perceptual observation of an occurrence is not a miracle, it's a phenomena. It's the observation that I'm going to levitate for you now, all right? This gives you full accord to, number one, identify yourself as a body, number two, identify me as a body, and place us in a corresponding associations with my capacity to demonstrate to you something that is outside of your frame of reference in regard to the occurrence, but not in regard to our perceptual association. Jesus calls that magic, okay? It wouldn't make any difference what I would do if you're going to accord me a capacity of a body relationship. I am not a body. Okay. There is no such thing as a body. Okay. At any moment, the body literally is not. In order to feel that, you have to look at this as imagery. Never mind this part of it. See, this is all imagery. Try to hear me, try to hear me. If I get too fast with you, I'll slow it down. But you need to know this. See, finally, there's no difference between something solid and something fluid and something airy. It's only in your demonstration contained within your own perceptual associations that makes this solid at all. Okay? It's an image. Jesus calls it a dream so that you can be sure that it is not, what? Real. It is not real. Why? It has no source. See, you guys don't mind the idea that this is not real. You'll judge it as illusionary, but you won't judge the source as illusionary. Do you see? Here's where you have the problem. Because perceptually, since your associated thoughts have not left this identity, they are always reflecting back to themselves what are called really thought forms. This is a thought form. This body, this microcosm, is a universal thought form. I guarantee you this is true. That contained within me is the universe. Not as a symbolic relationship between the macrocosm. Listen, it's the same thing. Can you hear it? Subatomically, there's just as much smaller than me as there is bigger. Can you see this? The distance from the subatomic relationship of this energy factor to my head is approximately 28,000 light years, moving at the speed of light atomically in its relationship. This is Jesus calls it a constellation. He says in the Course, you are a constellation, okay, of conflicting associated ideas. He doesn't say this, I'm just saying this. I don't want to give him, he said this, but you have a symbiotic, momentary symbiotic, conflictual relationship in this constellation, okay? Are you fighting a galactic war in here? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're fighting a war within your own system. Take a look at the mercenaries that you'll bring in to attack or defend yourself. Where? In relationship with what? With this. All of your Star Wars associations are going on in your body. Everything is going on in that association. What are we going to do now first? We're going to develop interstellar drive. Okay? In other words, if it's going to take me that long to come from this association to this association, how am I ever going to get my energy? This is what you would call my potential, my source, my black hole. Okay? Every galaxy has a black hole, which is what? Your genetic associations compacted at the time of the schism. Now, what are we doing? We're taking the black hole and expanding it up into our minds to come whole with this, right? We're returning to our source. Now, the teachings of Jesus would be, is the black hole, is this real? No, no, no. It's a space-time factoring that allows for the idea of potential. I have to give you that. I can't take your potential away from you, right? I can't take the idea that you can accomplish something in the future away from you because you believe that your source emanates from Earth, from what you call female, from what you call the end of the schism. Can you hear this? Okay, Jesus calls this the great reversal. He says at the time it reached in the schism, at the time it reached its most compact demonstration of staticness, it automatically became whole, because there is no such thing as nothing. Not only that, but from wholeness standpoint, it happened simultaneously. From potential standpoint, it took just a moment. Okay? It took just a moment. You are in the moment of evolving from Earth, from the demonstration of the evolutionary process, isn't it? You look around and you can see the evolution going on from the mineral to the vegetable to the animal and on up into man that's being replicated in your 9 months demonstration of your maturity, which is actually the whole evolutionary process where it's taking place in the body. But the fact is that you associate with your potential, female, the idea of memory that's contained in you emanates from the compactness of the disorder that occurred at the time of the schism. Do you understand this? And you like it. You say, yes, we sprang from Earth. And all around you, you see the cycleness of the occurrence. And you see the evolvement of your mind as it progresses through the stages, perhaps, of mineral, okay, and the high associations of consciousness, and then the brighter associations that occur in plants. And this is the teachings of hierarchical associations in the consciousness. Here's your problem. This is not your source. Jesus would say, you're not from here. Okay? You're from out here. Okay. You're from God, what you call wholeness. But you're caught now where? You're caught now in the ascent back. Okay. You're caught with what? Taking all of the potential that there could ever be in a space-time relationship and activating it totally, at which time it'll be at the omega point that you entered into. Questions? I'll answer any question if you really want to make a statement. Quite obviously, all you're doing is speeding up time. Time is at your disposal because you invented it in your mind with the idea that you can return to source, and you can. The question is not that. The question is, why don't you? The reason you don't is you have no frame of reference contained within a limited perceptual association that this is your true source. When does that occur? When you become a human being. See? Now what have you got? Okay? Now you got an association with a split mind. Why, you call this right and left brain. You could call this male and female. If you wanted to. What are you doing? You're meeting yourself halfway. This is the ego. You know perfectly well you have an identity that transcends your associations, but you don't know where it's coming from. You invent a God because the solution is now contained in, hey, wait a minute, there's more to that than this. What did you ask? Who am I really and where did I come from? You looked out here and said it must be out there. And it is. That's the condition you find yourself in right now. Yeah.
I'm having difficulty. What I understand, we talked about memories. I understand who I am comes from the sense of ego and identity.
It's not real.
Okay, I'll accept that.
I'm glad. I mean, we appreciate you accepting it. Go.
What I'm trying to do now is get a sense of what life is without my body. At this point in time,
It's everything. Because life is everything.
that leaves me with the feeling that I have no idea what everything is.
So you'll die to prove that you're real rather than releasing it so you can know what everything is. That's the whole teaching. The whole teaching is you can't know. Yeah.
See, whereas we talk about the body and everything, what I understand about the spirit.
You don't understand anything about the spirit because you don't understand anything.
Yes.
You don't know what anything is. Why do you continue to compare illusions? I'll do this lesson for you.
Right.
See, you're always caught with what? You're caught with the power of your own mind demonstrating your own reality. That's what you're doing. I can't take that away from you. I can tell you you're more than that, though. But you'd have to believe me.
Yes. What I would like to do is get some sort of experience that allows me to understand that I was different.
You never get it. You can't get it. Because you're defining experience in association with value systems that are false. It's impossible. The whole association is to release you from the necessity to identify it. That's what's keeping you from being in heaven. Come on. You're trying to tell God what he ought to be. Well, can he be that? No. What? He's going to be who he is. Who's that? Who you are. Now, I understand the notations that you're doing in your mind. This is the necessity before you get to me. I'm telling you the problem can't be solved. For crying out loud, the problem can't be solved. That's a fact, first. Not now. The fact is that this problem cannot be solved. If sickness and death are real, if this body is real, how would you solve the problem? You have to get it up to where it belongs, okay? I'm going to say to you in the next sentence, the problem cannot be solved because the problem is not real. But to you, the problem appears very real. Okay? Now, the only psychology that can ever be applied to this to show you that the problem is in your own mind is very simply by not defending yourself from your own associations. Because you're in fundamental conflict with the necessity to demonstrate the schism in your own mind, aren't you? This is called forgiveness in the Course. Non-judgment. Okay. What we're doing here now, attempting to do, and I'll pull this back up a little bit for you, is to get you not to judge at all. The non-judgment is what salvation is, right? Isn't it true that God doesn't judge? How would he? He's perfect. Isn't it true that you do judge? Yes. Okay. Now, it has nothing to do, and I want to say this to you, because it always appears that I'm attacking you. Okay. It has nothing to do with whether you're right or wrong about this. This is what you're trying to establish. It doesn't have to do with that. It has to do with it's not real. Okay. Anything that you say to me in your attempts to re-illusion this within the frequency of your perceptual observation will mean nothing. What lesson? 140. The reason you can't heal is you keep re-illusioning. Okay, the most Socratic lesson in the course, lesson 139, I'll do it for you. You know perfectly well who you are. You're pretending you don't, and those are what's asking the question who it is no thing.
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, Master Teacher. That's great. So yeah, here we are, receiving this, not trying to work it into our limited ideas about ourselves, but just letting this be, not judging it at all. It's like, okay, yeah, absolutely, thank you. Now, it does something with me. That's great. Do I need to observe that? No, I'm going through that. That's perfectly all right. So, yeah, what next is then the question. What next? What next? What next? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do this? No. Stop. Stop. Relax into this. It's like you just are exposed, you could say, to a frequency that is doing something with you. You don't have to do anything. No. Are you kidding? No. So like any attempt to do something with this will, say, fall back into the same failure of trying to bring it into your limited perspective of yourself. I say, well, I think pretty good about myself. I think pretty good about myself. I have pretty good ideas about myself. I have no doubt about that. But it doesn't fit into that. So the whole thing being shared here is not comprehensible. Like you can't wrap your mind around it. No, this doesn't work that way at all. So it's doing something with you. You don't have to do anything with it. And that's actually very comforting. See, it is just that we meet in space and time in this moment, receiving this frequency, being lifted out of it for just a second, coming back in, and here we are. It's like you had your exposure, that is all. Does that speed up time? Oh yeah, oh yes, absolutely. Beyond comprehension, like you don't even have to think about it, how much it speeds up your time of suffering and limitation and struggle and all this. So that's why I say thank you so much. Thank you, dear one, as I call him, like, dear one, thank you so much. Thank you for everything. So I made some sheets from part of this very beginning of the talk. I think it's the first 5 minutes, maybe less. And I'm just going to use that in a certain way. Let me say something first. It's like what we're trying to do here is not trying to fit it into our frame of reference. Now it's more like, let's take a look at it and see what happens. That's the only thing that I do with it. For the rest, nothing. Here it says like the body is literally not. You just heard that too. The body is literally not. The whole basis of the teaching is that you don't know who you are. Is that a fair assumption? Is that fair? No one here really knows who they are. Otherwise, why would you seek an identity? If you knew who you were, why would you have to have an identity? Answer me. Yeah, we just heard this wonderful. So the demand that you and I recognize each other mutually is an attack on reality, isn't it? Like if we think there's some kind of exchange going on, that I'm literally recognizing you here and trying to exchange with you, that is what in fact attack on reality is. In other words, your need to be who you are or who you think you are, in other words, your need to be who you think you are is obviously a demonstration of a defense that you present yourself with in order to associate with your imagined cohorts. See, that's why I immediately said too, it's like, no, this is nothing to do with a we doing something. And that's really important, because otherwise it looks like we're a group of people doing this, and it's not. There's no we in this story. It's like, no, it comes back to me. I try to fit everything into my frame of reference. That's an impossibility of the way that I have created, have made myself. It's not even created. I made myself that way as a human being. So waking up then is fundamentally a recognition that I don't know who I am. That's going to be shown to me. For the rest, I have no idea. Absolutely open. I can have beautiful metaphors or what I think that means. I don't want to take that away from you, and that's really lovely, and we can use it to express it sometimes. But it is like, no, this is you receiving this, you receiving this, you hearing this. You wanting to hear this above all else. You want to hear what is being shared, not as a must, but as a necessity to come to life, to be reborn in yourself. See, but if I use the word reborn, you start already like, oh yeah, I'm doing this too, and I'm doing that too. Like, no. You're not doing anything. So it's like you go back to, no, that's not what it is. No, don't build up any ideas. Don't try to fit it into your system of what you think you are and what you are doing, because you don't know what you are. If you knew who you were, like, you would have no consideration about it. So it's like you're either the great thing then, and this is a bit what Master Teacher said in the video too, or in the podcast. The great thing is then, even though you say decide to be in this limited perspective of yourself, trying to wake up or trying to figure it out or trying to do all kinds of things, which is not going to work, will eventually, like even that will eventually be successful, because you have no, there's no way that you will not come to an awakening, you could say. Like that is fundamentally going on. You can't avoid. In fact, all ways lead to that experience. Whether it takes another 20 million years or whether it takes another 2 days. So what do I mean with sharing this? Is that your so-called destiny is never going to be what you think it is. You might think it as long as you think it, then you have a destiny that looks like that. But if you give that idea up, and let your destiny be given to you, it will be immediately, coming to fulfilling. You don't have to wait 20,000 years for that. So what is the next step that we're going to share with one another? So I'm going to pull up this sheet one more time. Your need to be who you think you are is obviously a demonstration of a defense that you present yourself with in order to associate with your imagined cohorts, like with your little pack, with your little like-minded course people or like-minded whatever people. Like, no, that's not what is happening here. We're talking here about individual recognition of truth. So your need to be who you think you are is what you will defend, you could say, up to the last fiber. And trying to knit that together in some kind of knitting work with other ones that you imagine will just delay the process and will not be helpful to you. What I would like you to do, if I can, if you're going to do this, Course in Miracles teachers particularly, is at least give you a premise of what you must do in order to be a miracleist. It has to begin with the subtraction of your persona. This is, if we're going to say we are going to work a miracle here now, there are miracles going on right now in this new range of consciousness. But say the first necessity, okay, so the first necessity is getting rid of this persona that seems to be our best, say, partner in considering options, our best partners in considering our progress, our best partner in planning. So it's like a little manager that you have a chat with all the time. The chatter that's going on in your mind is always some kind of interview with a good friend. But it's like this is just another way of, say, holding on to your persona. So if you have your personal trainer with you, you could say, yeah, it's your personal trainer. That's a nice analogy. Like, if your personal trainer is continuously instructing you about, well, you should do this different. No, you didn't do that right. Well, you should actually do it like this. When that thing is going on in your mind, you're trying to maintain something that has no reality whatsoever. Because truth is, it doesn't need to be, say, personal trained. The truth is, that will, say, be the bright light that you start to recognize when you give up this persona. And as long as you're feeding this persona, it will be there. If you don't pay attention to it and allow it to be released in your mind, and which is not just like having a little cry or something about it. No, this is really a fundamental, say, getting rid of your best friend kind of funeral. Getting rid of your personal trainer and yourself, as you know yourself. So that's a burial of two. That's a lot of death right there. See, that's why I say, like, you're not going to do this just like that. So it's like you have to first know that this is going on. You have to recognize it. When you recognize it, you have to, say, dissociate it from all its entanglement with everything that isn't. All this networking that you have done in your own mind to establish yourself as the thing you're not. Oh my God. See, that needs a miracle. You cannot figure that out, how to do that. It needs a miracle. It needs for you to go inside yourself, having a moment in which you allow yourself to collapse into yourself. So it needs to be like a miraculous occurrence. Otherwise, you would be considering to do this for the next 20,000 years. And your personal trainer would advise you to think about it one more time. You know what I'm saying? So this is the thing that you're dealing with. So if you don't use, you could say, the miracle to get out of this, it's going to take a very long time. Now, it's not that I'm selling miracles. They're freely available. There's no sacrifice being asked. It is a catalyst. It is, you cannot use it up or something. No, it's part of the process, but it's not used up in the process. They become redundant as soon as you have a total recognition with yourself. Then it becomes silly. In fact, it's like, so this is good to know. And that seems hard and that seems impossible. Good. Wonderful. You're not able to do it. Right. That's true. Get rid of this persona that even considers this. And get rid of the idea that you cannot do this with the help that is given you, because you can. And that is so comforting. The moment you see that a change has occurred in your recognition of yourself, just like as an, wow, I didn't see that coming, kind of experience, you know that you're on the right way. You get your confirmation of what is going on. Like you get a confirmation in terms of comfort. And comfortmation, yeah. So it's really like this. It's like it's totally comforting, and you feel in that moment your connectedness with your brother without having. In fact, it becomes very clear to you that you're the dreamer and that you need help, and that this is happening to you in order to wake up out of your construct. So this is really fundamental, as we always like end up, in fact, really fundamental, because you're dealing here with a real transformational process where you have no influence. You could say you have no influence on the eventual result of the experiment. The only thing that's being asked of you is to participate in it, by first dropping your persona and getting out of the way in order for it to be present in the recognition of yourself. Like it will come into your consciousness. Don't worry about it. That will happen. And don't try to understand what I'm saying. All right, this is great. I love the impossibility of doing this too. It's like, it's great. So if this speaks to you, wonderful. If this resonates, wow, good for you. That's really lovely. That's really great. Keep coming back and participating in it. It's like, absolutely. Participating in it by getting out of the way. Not by thinking that you have a function to fulfill here that will make you a better you. No, the you that we're looking for is created perfectly. It is just temporarily out of your radar, you could say. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today, and see you soon. Thank you for now.